Welcome everyone, I'm the Depressed Dior, and this is Final Fantasy Tactics. So, originally I already made a video of giving my final thoughts and what I was going to do, and then I went ahead and just deleted that video, took a nap, woke up this morning, and now I'm making this video. So, needless to say, I'm pretty much done with this series. I apologize for not being able to do the last boss, but quite frankly, that battle's it's not even remotely fair or fun. It's not impossible, don't get me wrong, it's very much possible to beat that boss. Though you are kind of fighting against the random number generator, because apparently he can do all Ultima anytime he wants, so we'll just have to see, I guess. But let's go ahead and just go over the patch in general. I was going to give my final thoughts anyway, and since it's pretty much the end of this Let's Play, I'll go ahead and give them. Let's start with the good stuff, so we can start on a positive note. Archael did a lot of good things. By the way, Archael did this, I think, all by himself, so I do give him props for making this patch. It's just unfortunate there's some serious glaring errors still. But the good stuff is there's a lot of revamps and balances of a lot of classes. They completely took out the calculator, which is a very overpowered class, and replaced it with the sage, which is a pretty interesting class, though we never really used it in this playthrough. But a lot of the revamps made sure that a lot of the early tier job classes were still viable, and for the most part they were. I mean, with the exception of Elmdor, and apparently the very final phase of the last boss, I survived with mostly low tier characters. I was using a marksman and a monk through the entire game, just about. Pretty interesting stuff. I was even using Ramza as a squire through most of the beginning of the game, simply because no one was voting on him, and I eventually got Limo to vote on a class for Ramza. So yeah, there's a lot of good balances there. There's a lot of new monsters, which kind of adds a variety. I'm not entirely certain, but it feels like some of the older monsters were taken out, or they're just simply missing. Like the cat thing. There's these cat monsters, and I don't think I saw a single one in my playthrough. Then again, I only kind of did my random encounters in specific places, so who knows. The other thing that's definitely good was the revamping of spells, mainly just the wizard and priest spells, or white mage and black mage, if you prefer those titles. Changing from the standard, Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3, Fire 4 formula, and changing it to something like, Meltdown, Cyclone, Chain Lightning, and stuff. Even having an instant cast spell, one instant cast spell was pretty cool. I think it kind of added a unique feature to the class. And making the priest have some offensive capabilities was also a nice thing. Also replacing the cures with just cure and rejuvenate gave some more breathing room for other better spells. So pretty good stuff. The only thing that kind of sucks is for the wizard is getting Dark Holy instead of Flare, because Dark Holy is kind of useless through most of the game, or at least for the end game. They also made the Oracle spells a lot more accurate, which was a good thing, but at the same time it was also a bad thing, because later on you're going to have to deal with a lot of people that are immune to status effects, which I'll go into later. I went ahead and marked the Deep Dungeons as a good thing. Deep Dungeons is completely optional. Originally it was just a chance to get one rare character. You can learn a very rare summon spell there, and you can also pick up a whole lot of rare items using Move Find item. And it's essentially supposed to be the hardest dungeon in the game, and that's what it is. It's still that, and it's pretty much a place where you have to, for the power gamers of Final Fantasy Tactics, where they test out their most, overpowered min-max build they can against the, most ridiculous encounters possible. So I don't really have any issue with Deep Dungeons. I mean, it's completely optional, so I can't really fault it too much. I wouldn't complain if it was a little bit easier, to the point where you can actually use, standard classes and not have to rely on people like Cloud and, the Dragoner and stuff like that. But, yeah. The other things, there's new and revamped items, which I thought was pretty cool. They changed some of the items have been completely changed, some new items were added, and I also like the fact that a lot of the rare items can actually be found if you do the side. If you just do the normal quest side quest line to get Cloud, you can actually get some pretty rare items already. So that's pretty cool. And I do appreciate the attempt at trying to balance the various special knight abilities. You know, kind of like Holy Sword, Dark Sword, stuff like that, making it so they can miss. For the most part, it was a good attempt, but at the same time, it didn't really do too much. It costing MP can delay you in the beginning, but in the late game, MP is not an issue, unless you get hit with, mute, which I'll go into later. But being able to miss does kind of give you a possibility, it at least gives you a way to avoid the attack. But for the most part, unless you're a knight, you're probably going to get hit by it anyway. But, like I said, good attempt. So, those are the good things I kind of liked about it. Especially the classes. The classes and the Revamped Spells and stuff like that, I think was a very good thing. And I mean, that was the only real reason I was playing this, doing this Let's Play, and not just doing the regular Let's Play. Because it made things interesting. I mean, heck, it made the Marksman, it changed the Archer to the Marksman, replaced the stupid charge mechanic with a series of abilities that could be used. But, unfortunately, as far as the bad stuff, despite the fact that he made an attempt to balance out knight abilities, he made no attempt at balancing out any NPC abilities. For example, the various assassin abilities like Shadow Stitch, or Loss. Those abilities that you saw, Loss and Seal, that the demon bosses use, had 100% hit rates. So unless you had an item that made you immune to it, it was completely and utterly. It was very annoying. I don't like the fact that there are stats effects that have a 100% hit chance. I mean, mine don't. So theirs shouldn't either. I mean, you can still make a challenging game without having to rely on cheap tactics like making 100%, instant kill abilities and 100% chance of instant, debilitating effects. I'm looking at you, stupid terror spell. Honestly, if any of you guys know a way of avoiding terror, let me know. But as far as I know, there's no way to resist a brave effect. So, anyway, the other thing I marked down was just Elmdor himself. It didn't look like there was any attempt to balance him, and in fact, he tweaked it to make him stronger by giving him an even more powerful katana ability. I don't think that was a really good thing. If anything, he should just left it alone. If he had left it alone and not given him, the most powerful katana ability, it would have been a little bit more reasonable. But getting hit in the very first turn before you can even take an action for 500 damage, I don't think was cool. It was one of those situations where you have to use a specific party to kind of win. Because if you don't, you won't be able to hit him because he has Blade Grass. Which, I was really hoping he wasn't going to have Blade Grass. I would have been happy if he had just Hamado, which he does in the very first encounter you have with him, but not in the major boss fight. The other thing I mark as a bad is the constant use of unique abilities. These are things kind of like Dark Sword, Holy Sword, All Magic, stuff like that, Dimension Magic, stuff like that. You probably noticed towards the end, we started encountering a lot of Death Knights, and then we started encountering Time Mages that knew All Magic, which allows them to cast any spell instantaneously. And I really thought that was kind of a lazy way to try to increase the difficulty. You could have done things a little bit better that way, by, using good combinations and stuff like that. Alright, what else do I want to talk about? Let's see, listed next is the final phase of the boss, but I'll save that for later. The thing I'll note is, despite the fact he revamped and balanced a lot of the classes, there are still some classes that are very lacking. The Lancer is still kind of meh, even though there have been changes to it. It doesn't do enough damage. It's very weak compared to the Samurai, which makes sense. I mean, the Samurai is supposed to be the end tier for the physical melee class, but I don't know. Lancer's kind of lacking. I think what would probably been better is made a jump ability, and then have a bunch of other abilities that are special Dragoon abilities or something like that. Very similar to what was done with the Marksman, where instead of just having one ability that's just charge, you have a bunch of different shot types, which I think that would have been better. But despite that, some of the issues involves the fact that the AI just flat out cheats. For example, they can dual wield guns when you cannot, which it's not even possible to dual wield guns no matter what. So I think that was pretty bad what they did. Some of the other things include wearing ribbons and berets as accessories instead of helmets. I mean, if you really wanted them to be accessories, make them accessories. In fact, I would have loved it if ribbon was an accessory and not a helmet, because then I would have actually had a way to equip them, and that would have been great. I would have been able to use them more effectively. But no, only the NPCs can wear them as accessories, and it makes no sense. The other things is sometimes, you know, I've noticed that some of the NPCs have abilities that are not listed on their ability list, such as, you know, the White Knights in the coal mines had move MP regain, even though they didn't have it equipped because they had move +3. So, and then also just some of the classes were just completely immune to all status effects. All status effects. That includes poison, minor stuff, even slow doesn't work on them. And I thought that was a really poor way of doing it, because doing things like that completely negates certain job classes, and the point of this, for revamping the classes, is to make them all viable. Oracle is not viable in the endgame. There is no reason to use Oracle in the endgame. I'm willing to say the same thing about the Templar Knight as well. But yeah, I can understand, like, maybe major bosses, like the demons, being immune to a lot of status effects. I would still prefer that they be vulnerable to certain ones. They might still be vulnerable to certain ones. I didn't check. I wasn't gonna check. It's not worth testing. Because testing in this game is troublesome, to say the least, unless you use save states, because you have to constantly reload, constantly redo your stuff every time you go to the menu, and then go through all the dialogue, go through the combats. But that's not a fault of the patch, that's just a fault of the game design itself. But yeah, that was kind of my major thing. Really, the biggest thing is the 100% chance hitting abilities, mainly with the status effects. I thought that was really poorly done. I believe, well, for one, it's not the fact that Archael changed it that way. It was more the fact that it was just it was set that way, and he didn't bother changing it. I mean, I would have been impressed if he actually made an effort to make those abilities be possible to miss, because then you can use things like, you know, feather mantles and stuff like that, or Dracula mantles, to try to avoid them instead of relying on just purely equipping certain items to resist status effects. Because for the most part, unless you're using a ribbon, things like North Cross or whatever, Holy Cross or whatever it's called that the final boss uses, you won't be able to stop all those status effects, so it's kind of not so good. So, let's go ahead and talk about the final boss. The first phase of the final boss was actually kind of cool. I really did like how it, I didn't mind the fact it teleported around. That's what the original bosses did. But she would teleport around, you know, cast her spells, and for the most part, all of her spells had a charge time, which was a very good thing. And then the minions were pretty easy. They were kind of just there to be fodder, and then she would just constantly re-raise them, which I think was pretty cool, kind of balancing out, taking the demons out while taking out the boss. Alma was buffed, which a lot more than the original game, which I thought was pretty good, because that was helping make the changes that were made a lot more tolerable. Unfortunately, once we got to phase 2, shit hit the fan. Even with Alma's help, there was no way to. You're rolling against the random number generator at this point, because Altima can use all Ultima anytime it wants. They proved that in the very final bit of my last video, which I apologize if you guys suffered through that one entire hour-long video, but if you did, kudos to you, because now you understand why I'm making this video and why I'm quitting, because it's not worth fighting. But now the final phase, both versions, they do have teleport too. That's nothing new. I don't remember all the abilities that the original had. I know he had he had that cross ability that did all the status effects, but it still had a charge time, I believe. In fact, I think all of his abilities had charge times, which gave you an opportunity to, you know, pump damage into him. But in this version, all of his abilities are instant cast, which I think was a really bad thing. I really don't like the fact that Archael decided, you know what, I want to make things harder by just simply making overpowered abilities that have long charge times have instant charge times. Because there's a reason why Meteor has a really long charge time. It's because it's a very powerful spell. So when you can just instant cast it anytime you want, that was kind of ridiculous. So when he did, like, instant cast 999 damage with the radius of a meteor, it was kind of ridiculous. The only reason I kind of tolerated when he first did it was simply because Alma had re-raise on everybody, and I kind of continued on from there. But all of his abilities are instant cast. He has an ability that can hit anyone on the map from any position, which was a level question mark angelic, which I found was I really think that was a bad idea giving that to him. I don't know if he has it in the original. I don't think he did, because I never recall ever being hit by it. But what he can do, literally with Teleport 2 and that ability, is he can teleport from one end of the ship to the other and constantly use that ability. And I wouldn't be able to catch him. The only way I can catch him is by spreading out everyone across the ship and then just attacking when I can. But that doesn't really work, because he can just use the status effect ability on whoever's nearby when he teleports. And then that person would be, unable to fight. But it's even worse than that, because that Northern Cross, or whatever it's called, ability, is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is the fact he has an ability called Terror that has a 100% hit chance that reduces Brave by 60. Now, most of you guys are not familiar with what Brave can do if it gets too low, because for the most part, all the Brave reducing abilities were taken out of this game. They were just completely taken. Well, all the job classes that had abilities to remove Brave, or reduce Faith, or increase Faith, and so forth, were taken out. Or I believe they were originally like calculator abilities and stuff like that. And also I believe Beowulf had one of those abilities as well. But what ends up happening is if you go below 10 Brave during a combat, you will turn into a chicken. And for the most part, you're just too afraid to fight, and you'll just run around doing nothing. And every turn you're a chicken, you'll get back 1 Brave until you hit 10 again, and then you can act. You'll be able to act normally. Problem is after that, there's no way to get your Brave back up, as far as I can tell. So you're stuck at 10 Brave, which can really cripple a monk, because monk's punching ability is based off of Brave. So he has this ability that can completely debilitate a party member for up to 10 rounds, because if you get down to 0 Brave, that means you have about 10 or 11 rounds before you can actually take an action again, or have control again. And it has a 100% hit chance, and there's no way to avoid it. I don't think there's a way to avoid Brave reduction. That's why it was removed in the first place, because it's very, very overpowered. So he had that ability, and then he decided, like, later on, he started doing it more frequently. He eventually had it so I had 2 of my characters constantly chickened, and I couldn't do anything with them. Then he decided to just show off, and showed off that he had an ability that can miss, called Mute, that can completely burn away all your MP, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. I don't think it's really fair well, I'll take that back. Mute would have been fine if it weren't for the other abilities that were also being spammed. And I think the only reason he had all these abilities is simply because it gave more favor to the random number generator to not use all Ultima. Because there's nothing, you can't really control what the AI does too much, as far as I can tell, unless you just hard-code it. So, yeah, so those are all of his abilities. Oh, sorry, there was one other ability he had. He had M Barrier, which he can instant cast on himself to give himself Protect, Shell, and Haste. That isn't too annoying, that just makes the boss tougher, but it does compound all the other problems, like the constant, using Terror, constant using Angelic, and so forth. I don't know how close I was to winning that fight, and I honestly don't care at this point. Even if I had won, I would have still given all these complaints, because quite frankly, you're fighting against the random number generator. You're fighting against the chance that he may decide to use all Ultima, or he may decide to use Terror. And if he uses either of those abilities, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. There's nothing you can do about it. So that is kind of my thing. It's not a fun fight. It's not strategic. I mean, the only strategic thing you can do is just be able to try to spam abilities on him and kill him before he can do anything to you. Which, you can kind of do. I mean, you can always just equip ribbons and berets and try to limit it as much as possible. But honestly, that was just an unnecessary difficulty spike that shouldn't have happened in the first place. I mean, I got to this point, using basic classes for the most part, with the exception of, the Samurai, and I guess you can consider the Time Mage a kind of an advanced class as well. But then it decided, you know what? we're gonna make it so it's pretty much impossible. Like, this type of monster, like the regulator and so forth, I have seen videos of them being beaten, but for the most part, all of the parties I've seen consisted of generally high-end classes or using a monk, or using mimes and stuff. And I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to see if it was possible to actually do this with a legit party, and apparently it's not. I mean, I could possibly win, but like I said, I'm going against the random number generator. Oop, I dropped my controller. But, if it uses Terror, there's nothing I can do. I lose a party member then. If it uses Angelic, Angelic seemed to be very accurate. It seemed to always hit me. Occasionally it would hit a dead body, but for the most part it always hit me. And he could do it anywhere from 1 to 6 times. On average he did about 3 or 4 every time he used the ability. And for the most part, unless you're at full HP, and even then, it kills you in 1 or 2 shots. So, he was able to do that constantly, just teleport from one end of the ship to the other using Angelic, and just killing you. So yeah, I'm not very pleased with how that ended. For one, I know some of you guys never have played Final Fantasy Tactics, so you guys won't be able to see the ending. But I'm not going to be doing this boss fight. It's not worth the trouble. Like I said, there are good things about this patch, but at the same time, this is a major screw-up, and I'm pretty sure Archael doesn't care, because he didn't really care about the people that really wanted an easier patch. The content patch was made because a lot of people were like, hey, can you make an easier one? And for the most part, he kind of lashed out at a lot of people, from what I've heard anyway. I'm pretty sure he would give a different story. But eventually he kind of made an easier patch, but not really. All he did was make sure that the quest encounters, the main quest encounters, did not level with you. So you can actually experiment with job classes and not worry about over-leveling and then killing yourself. But other than that, a lot of the other stuff isn't that balanced, and I think he's not going to bother changing it, because he's beaten the game on this version, but at the same time I have seen him just constantly, you know, save load well, he doesn't save scum in the case that he'll save during combat, but he does do a lot of trial and error. I have seen a bunch of his videos where he tries to do solo runs and stuff like that. And for the most part, he's kind of relying on a random number generator to kind of roll in his favor. So I don't know. That's kind of the person that made this patch. So he kind of made things a lot more skewed towards, you know, trial and error. And I don't mind it too much. It's just there's not much at this point in the game. I can't backtrack. Like at the final boss, you can't do anything. You are stuck. You would have to go back you have to redo all 5 battles if you want to go and grind or do something significant with your job classes or job position, or if you want to use a different character completely. So I think it was a poor decision to kind of buff the boss that much. For one, I think the things he could have done for the final boss is, one, make all of his abilities have charge times. Make him so he has to sit still for a bit, and then you can, you know, get some hits in. Because if he can instant cast, all he has to do is just instant cast and then teleport away. That's all he has to do. And that's what he did most of the fight. I mean, you guys, it was an hour-long video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, because I certainly didn't. Other things, well, let's see. Make abilities miss. Just make the abilities be able to miss. Make him roll on the random generator, besides just deciding what ability to use. Take out the thing that reduces Brave, replace it with something else. Make all Ultima not ridiculous. There's no reason to make it that ridiculous. Make it like a unique sort of meteor, but not, you know, instant death. Because there's no point in making it instant death. You're trying to make it so the game's challenging, not stupid. If I wanted to play a stupid game, I would play Dark Souls. Oh boy, I bet people loved when I just said that. But yes, Dark Souls is stupid. But, I don't know about Demon Souls. I think Demon Souls is alright. Try to figure that one out. But, yeah, that's gonna be it. I'm not gonna do any more of this content patch. You guys got to see everything. It was kind of the purpose of it in the first place. I kind of wanted to show videos of the content patch and not the regular patch, so to see if there was any difference. And for the most part, you can get through most of the main quests pretty easily. It's just, eventually it decides to shit on you. So, yeah, I may decide to do a playthrough of the original Final Fantasy Tactics without any patches, and, you know, let you guys choose the classes again, but it's going to be a little bit further down the line. I'm probably going to be doing another Let's Play next. I think it'll be Fortune Summoners, which will also frustrate me, but at least I can beat that game. So, I apologize for not being able to finish the game, but for anyone that watched that hour-long video, I am hoping you guys will understand exactly why I decided to stop. And if you don't, well, it's your call. Anyway, I am Theater Prestior. This was Final Fantasy Tactics with the 1.3.0.6 content patch. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys later.